Okay, great. Hi, everybody. I want to welcome everybody to this second round of Geo Inquiry with Herb Thompson. Thanks for being patient and coming back with us again for a second round of this. Before we get started with Herb, I do, however, just want to introduce the Morpho Institute and some of our work for those of you that are new or listening in for the first time. So the Morpho Institute is a 501c3 nonprofit here in the United States. But as you know, most of you know by this point, our work is really centered in the Peruvian Amazon. And our mission really revolves around how can we harness education as a tool for conservation. And Morpho is run by all educators. Everybody on our board has classroom or informal education experience. And so we've all come together to build this organization and give teachers an opportunity to experience the Amazon. If you're not familiar with our field programs, we run two of them each summer in July. Our flagship program is the Educator Academy in the Amazon, and that is a place-based inquiry program where we take teachers through the whole process of inquiry using some guided reflections and guidance from the Pacific Education Institute's field studies book. And then we also do quite a bit with cultural connections through our partners on the ground. Conapac, and Megan McDaniel's on the line tonight. She's the executive director of Conapac, as well as our friends and colleagues, the Maihuna of Peru. And then shortly after COVID, we launched the Amazon Research Initiative for Educators, and that is a much deeper dive into biodiversity conservation research with neotropical ecologists, really looking at the process of field research and digging deep and contributing to long-term and short-term research projects. And in 2025, we're really excited. We're actually launching a geography team as part of that Amazon Research Initiative. For those of you that are new to Morpho, it's not uncommon for alumni to start with the Educator Academy and then want to come back and join the research initiative. So those things are quite always possible. But for now, tonight, I want to get going with our webinar with Herb Thompson. Herb's a long-term friend of the Morpho Institute and of me personally. He has an extensive background in classroom education and geography, Geo Inquiry, and has worked closely with another dear friend on the line tonight, Anita Palmer. So Herb, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and let you go ahead and share yours, and we'll get rolling with Geo Inquiry.
Okay, I think our timing is pretty good. Allowing folks to get on the call.
There we go. All I'm going to do is turn it into full screen and you're good.
I think we should be able to do that.
There you go. You're all set.
Okay, I think we'll do it. Well, folks, I'm very glad to be back and actually be seen because I really don't know what happened last week. I must have had an outage. The laptop was charged, but must have been my Wi-Fi or maybe just my overall signal connection or something. I got back on, but it took a little while, so we just rescheduled. So folks, I'm going to do a quick introduction. We're going to run through the first of these slides. I don't want to go too fast because not everyone was here last week. So I'll tell you a little bit about this. I worked here in Las Vegas for over 25 years as a classroom geography teacher. I was a coordinator for the Geographic Alliance in Nevada, which was one of the state alliance networks of National Geographic Education Foundation. And I'm hoping in about 3 weeks, I'm going to get my 90th country location. And so geography is something that I do all the time, even if I'm not in the classroom right now. I worked with Semester at Sea. I did Semester at Sea as a student in 1987. I'm just joining their new alumni board, and hopefully I'm going to travel maybe to Thailand for the first time, coming up maybe in January. That might be number 91. So with this presentation, Krista was just hoping that I could help everyone just get into a geography mindset. So I'll quickly go through these first few slides to remind you what geography is and how it's different than so many other disciplines. And my quote that's at the top was from Alexander Graham Bell. He was one of the 13 co-founders at National Geographic, and he said, geography is the world and everything in it. Keep in mind, if you teach geography or if you don't, that we've got physical geography and we have human geography. Physical geography doesn't change so much or change so fast, and human geography is a lot messier. I know you can read, what else is on the screen, but the most important thing is that geography is very unique in that it has the widest possible perspective. Um, and that's what these first few slides basically is about. It's probably maybe the only discipline that can help you understand what you're learning in just about any other subject. And that does not matter if it's music or in science or in one of the social studies. It's really, really good at giving everyone the helicopter view or the big picture. The presentation, Krista's going to make sure that it has a home at Morpho in the resources bank somewhere. So don't worry, you'll be able to get to a PDF version of this if you'd like to use some of the slides. Folks, this is from National Geographic Education Foundation. And I love this because it just reminds us that we can use geography in so many ways, because there are different scales that we can look at problems of the world, local, regional, and global. And of course, there's different lenses. Geography is spatial. The nature of geography is spatial. So we're always trying to put things on maps. And that's what we're going to be doing in the Amazon with our partners that are down there this summer. But there's so many elements to geography. It's not just the historical aspect. We do have friends that are geologists. Uh, all the lenses that you see there are things that geographers concern themselves with, and at all three of those scales. Okay, a local scale, a regional scale, and at the global scale. I think last week we just threw out um, climate change. We can look at that through any of these lenses and any of those scales. It affects us locally and the changes that we see in our own area, okay, regionally, okay, and definitely it's a global problem. And it definitely is affecting economics. It's a part of politics, just as one example. So this slide, I think, is really good for teachers and for students to see how geography can help us maybe make connections between all of these guys. This is another graphic I put together a few years ago, and I love to use this one with students. I'm just trying to sell them on, thinking geographically, using, geography all the time. And I just have to let them know that it's spatial. And then each one of these, I hope one of them will grab them. It builds knowledge, it provides perspective, it develops really special skills. Okay. And it's extremely good at detecting patterns, revealing connections, and ultimately, what do we want to use geography to do? Well, we want to help solve problems. We want to make more informed decisions, whether we're working with an indigenous group in the Amazon or with your library district in your hometown. And geography is for life. That was the name, by the way, of the national standards developed in 1994. So this slide will be in your in the packet as well. We started last week and we got just a little further than this. I wanted to give a human geography example and a physical geography example. We're also going to look at the 5 themes of geography, and then we'll talk a little bit more about a specific type of geo inquiry that was developed by National Geographic. Folks, we looked at this map, and I was asking last week people to see if there's any patterns that jump out to you. And I'll just share a couple that came last time. This is population The darker red and orange would be more people. Of course, you're going to find those in India and China. Europe looks pretty good. We focused on a couple of things. One, where is there not population? In the Amazon basin, we're talking about maybe 10 million people total in all the countries that are part of the Amazon basin, maybe a little bit more. Australia, Northern Africa, Siberia, Greenland. Okay, these places may have resources, but there's really not a lot of people. We decided to look at North America, and you notice quite a difference in the west and the east. And so I have a bigger map that we looked at just for a moment that you could also share with students and ask them this question. If you look pretty much central, right down the middle of the map, you will see a line. And to the east, there is much more population in the US than there is in the west. That line is about 100 degrees west longitude, if you're wondering. And we had just finished with this when I lost connection. So does anyone remember, or anyone want to tell me what is the biggest factor that makes the eastern US so much more populated than the west? You don't have to raise your hand, just jump right in. Speak up. If you're feeling brave.
Moisture, water.
It is definitely water. Folks, east of that 100 degrees west longitude, the average is over 20 inches of rain per year. So you can have agriculture without irrigation. The opposite is true. Much of the west, you definitely know, has less than 20 inches, and a lot of those places, whether it's Las Vegas at 3 inches or Reno, Nevada at 6 inches, Central Valley, California, hey, they're closer to the 20 inches. But really, the east and west is divided because of something from physical geography. It's rainfall, and it affects the population even to today. You might remember John Wesley Powell, who traveled Colorado, and in his report to the government when he was finished, he said, I'm not sure the West will ever be viable because it's just too dry, most of it. They weren't thinking of large projects like Hoover Dam, okay, and those type of things. And he was probably right. I don't know if we'll ever have as many people, or should we have as many people. Keeping with this one, this topic of demographics, I like to share this with kids as well. There's a couple of ways to look at population density. You can take all the square miles of a country divided by the population. One of my favorites is Egypt. That's why we have this one up here. Let me make sure I got this right. Folks, if you take all the square miles, all the land of Egypt, and divide it by the population, we get about 290 people per square mile. Most of you know that this number really isn't very useful. Wouldn't be useful for Australia, probably wouldn't be useful for Nevada either, because our population tends to be in one place. If you look at the darkest areas, you notice they're where? Along the Nile Delta. And so we use, sometimes you'll see it in demographic studies as arable land, that we can take the arable land and then divide the population. And that comes out to be, if I remember, about 3,500 people per square mile. Does that sound a little better for Egypt along the Nile, in Cairo, in those major cities like Luxor, in the Delta? Folks, it's a very crowded place. It's just that no one lives in the Western Desert, okay, or to any of the places. A few oases, and that's about it. So just letting students know that this is another way that maps, okay, using geography's spatial nature, can make things jump right out. Is there really 289 people? Wow, let's talk about statistics and averages. Okay, but also let's look at it spatially. And Egypt just is so easy that you can see why I like to use it. Folks, while we're on demographics, I thought we'd look at the 20 largest cities in the world. This was just from a few years ago. Let me correct myself. We're talking about metropolitan areas, not just a single city. And I just threw this chart up because I kind of like the chart. It's a really great chart, but it's not a map. And I'm telling you, there's a tiny map in there, but you really can't see it. But we're looking at Tokyo, Delhi, Shanghai, Sao Paulo, Mexico City, Dhaka, Cairo, Beijing, Mumbai, Osaka. Can anyone tell me out of those 10, how many are in Asia? I didn't realize that was that scary of a question. There are 6, and if you look at all 20, there are 12, meaning that about 60% of the largest cities in the world are in Asia. Folks, it's a very engaging chart. The list is very interesting, but it's really not spatial. And when you see something different like this is spatial. Folks, taking that information, putting it on a map, does this jump out at you a little bit more? Can you see that 60% of all the major cities in the world are in Asia? Okay, we have 2 huge population centers in India and China, but there are many other places, including Indonesia, Bangladesh, and Japan, and others. Folks, we still have some big cities like Mexico City, Sao Paulo. Africa is growing. There are places that are big, but we're looking at something in a spatial way. And that's why maps and geography are so useful in so many ways. Okay? They can tell stories and people can see the story right away instead of having to just rely on that list in their head or even a wonderful graphic like the one that you saw before. Folks, that is our human geography. I threw in a couple of slides that I think you'll enjoy. There are more people living in that circle than outside. Some of you may have seen this online. It's kind of popular. I see it pop up every once in a while in all kinds of areas online. So it's kind of a fun one. There was another that I liked a lot that I put in that was from 2011 when National Geographic was celebrating the world reaching 7 billion in population. This map I think was wonderful. Folks, each of those colors represents 1 billion people. So it takes all of North and South America, okay, and Australia and New Zealand to get 1 billion. Okay, Africa is very roughly 1 billion people by itself. Europe and a lot of Southwest Asia, Iran, Turkey, including Saudi Arabia, we get to 1 billion. Okay, just southern India and Myanmar and Bangladesh, 1 billion. Just northern China and Japan and Korea, 1 billion. Okay, Southeast Asia and Indonesia, another 1 billion. Folks, these are the type of maps that can really make an impression on people. So I threw this one in for you as well. Folks, the other example I want to use tonight, of course, is a physical geography example. How geographers look at the entire planet. If you're a science teacher, I know some of you are science teachers. You're out there. Some of you joining us for the first session definitely are science teachers. The geography session later in July, we might have some science teachers as well, or some physical geographers. Folks, they're going to be very familiar with Earth systems. If you teach this, just bear with me because I just want to show you how I use it. And it's just a reminder of this is the big picture. We're looking at the entire planet and geographers want to look at systems. So there's atmosphere, lithosphere, biosphere, hydrosphere. Folks, this is basically human environment interaction. And I've done this with third graders all the way up to seniors, all the way up to university students. Folks, we can use air and land and water and life instead of those terms if we have to. And we can just remind whether it's a group of teachers or a group of students or a group of parents at a geography night, hey, we have 4 Earth systems. They don't operate independently, and that's what we're kind of going to get at here as we go through. Let's look at each one really briefly. Folks, the lithosphere is the land. We're talking about the Earth's crust and the upper mantle. We're looking at somewhere between 6 and 20 miles of thickness for most of the Earth's crust. Let me see, I'm going to look at my notes here. We're looking at, I think it's about 6 miles to 25 miles in crust at the most. You've got oceanic plates, you've got continental plates, and you know the plate boundaries are where all the action is, where you have earthquakes and volcanoes at those plate boundaries. Folks, this is not just geology, but geographers would look at those areas and look at the map at the bottom left. What areas are prone to earthquakes and volcanoes? Which areas of the world never have to worry about those types of things? That's something that affects people for sure. Folks, we have the atmosphere, an incredibly thin layer of gases that really make our planet unique. It's not just that ozone layer that is the most important, because it keeps out all that cosmic radiation and allows us to thrive, but it's a very thin shell. Folks, that top picture reminds people that even though we talk about being up 200 miles in above the Earth to get to the International Space Station, it's a very thin layer. I love to share this fact. You know that like 90% of the heat on planet Earth is in the first 10 feet. So from the rim of the basketball, um, the rim down to the ground is 10 feet. Okay, and that's where 90% of the warmth is. Folks, it protects our planet, and the atmosphere is where so many things happen that affect, of course, not only plants and animals, but humans as well. Couple more. Folks, we have the hydrosphere. This one, in the last 50 years, is becoming more and more important. I think most of you know that 70% of the Earth is covered in oceans, salt water. We have only about 3% of the water of the world that we can consider fresh. A couple percent of that is locked up in ice or in groundwater that we can't get to, and about 1% we would call surface water. That's lakes, rivers, and groundwater that's pretty easily accessible that we can pump or get out of the ground. Folks, it's a scary thing to think that we have 1% of something so vital to life that's fresh. I think many of you know or heard Mark Twain's quote about that whiskey is for drinking and water is for fighting. And that's definitely true in the Western United States. But folks, there are places around the world that right now are in big trouble. Look up Cape Town, South Africa. Talk about a drought and a huge metropolitan area that is in trouble. That's one. Folks, there's two issues here. One is water quantity. In Las Vegas, we just don't have a lot of water. We have Lake Mead, and we have the Colorado River. We're never going to have enough water. Okay. Michigan in the United States, well, they don't worry about that. They have plenty of water. In the Amazon, where we're going, wow, plenty of water. They're not going to have an issue with that, even though their water might go down. The climate is changing. You're going to hear lots about that when we're in the Amazon, especially from Megan, who seems to love to send us and post pictures of the Amazon and the Napo rivers coming up and down, but they're going to have plenty of water. Then there's also a matter of quality. Folks along the Amazon, Conopac make sure that the partner communities have either a water tower, okay, or personal systems, because the issue in the Amazon wasn't the amount of water, but the quality of the water. Flint, Michigan has a problem with the quality of water, if you remember that, and of all the heavy metals that were in the public system of water. Folks, those two things are just two of the issues that geographers look at, but we're trying to look at all of these systems as one. Okay, the Earth has a hydrosphere, it has a lithosphere, has an atmosphere, and then of course it has a biosphere, all the living things. Folks, we're talking about plants, we're talking about all the kingdoms, all the animals, insects, ocean life, okay, and then of course people. Folks, that encompassing it encompasses all those, and it is the biosphere. So, what would you want as a geographer for kids to do and to kind of internalize that these systems, although we talk about them separately, hey, there's an atmosphere, there's a hydrosphere, they interact with each other. Okay, so we're going to take just a couple of minutes, and I'm sorry, we're going to put you on the spot once again. Oop, let me go back. What I would like you to do is think of a natural process or maybe a human process that starts in the atmosphere, the lithosphere, the hydrosphere, something that happens in that Earth system that affects other Earth systems. And you may need to think about this for a moment. You may not. You may have three that pop in your head right away. But remember, something that starts in the oceans, something that starts in the atmosphere, or an event or a process that starts in the lithosphere, somewhere on land, that affects the other systems. Can you think of any? Anybody just jump right in. I'm not looking at the chat, so you'll have to speak up.
I'll kick it off. Dust in the atmosphere from the Sahara, seeds, clouds in the Amazon.
Okay, so we have winds, which start in the atmosphere, right?
Uh-huh.
Okay, they pick up this dust, enormous amounts of it. We can see from satellites. It blows in the prevailing winds. Okay, and we know that moisture, uh, humidity will form around those particles, and when they get to the Amazon, they help facilitate the rain that falls there. It also falls to Earth, and so you have soil from one continent making it to another continent. So you have the atmosphere affecting the land, but also the biosphere. Would you agree?
I would.
Because it, yeah, affects the rainforest and how much rain is there and what plants can grow, and the whole system in that place. Anybody looking at the land, the lithosphere here, and thinking of something that happens here that it can affect people or the atmosphere or the biosphere?
I'm thinking of melting and volcanoes and how that can disrupt the.
Oh my gosh. Well, that's two different ones. So, okay, so we have a volcanic eruption, and that goes 20 miles high into the atmosphere. Folks, there have been volcanic eruptions, a lot of you know, that have cooled this entire planet for years. Okay, we have the volcanic eruption in Iceland that shut down transatlantic flights for weeks not so long ago. Folks, earthquakes, they may start in the crust under an ocean, but they can cause tsunamis. Okay, we've got the other was melting. We have something where the earth is warming, and places that have glaciers, whether that be the Andes or the Himalayas or the poles, that water, fresh water and salt water, is finding its way into the ocean, and that causes several types of problems. Okay, it's changing the circulation and the heat distribution of those. It's also uh, changing the salinity and even the flow of major currents around the world. And there are places in the world that if we have a rise of, oh my gosh, and we don't even need 10 meters, we're going to have places that are very well populated that you all know are not going to be able to live there anymore. Okay, we're not just talking about the Seychelles, maybe in the Indian Ocean, but we're talking about places like Southern California or the capital of Indonesia, which is slowly sinking, and every inch or 2 or 3 or 4 that the oceans rise, that's going to cause a problem for Jakarta. Is anybody thinking of hurricanes? Where do hurricanes start? Are they in the atmosphere, or are they in the hydrosphere? Or maybe a little of both? Can they affect the land? Can they affect the animals or the people that live in a place? Folks, I'm pretty sure if you ask someone from Florida or from anywhere on the Gulf Coast or in the Philippines over the last 5 years, if that's the case, they would say it's true. Folks, why I share this with you, it's because we can also map all the things that we've just talked about. We can find where the volcanoes are located. We can find where the plate boundaries are. We can find places and map them that are susceptible to tsunamis. Okay, we can find places that if the ocean rises 10 feet, boy, forget 10 meters, places that are going to be in a world of hurt. Okay, and we can make them spatial. It's two things. It's making this data spatial by using maps to tell a story, but it's also illustrating that we're looking at the world through the biggest possible lens. Okay, these Earth systems. I think all the kids may know the Earth systems. Hey, we've heard of the atmosphere, the hydrosphere. We studied that in 3rd and 4th grade. Okay, but we want them to start thinking about how they work together and how they work against each other, and how one thing that happens in one certainly can affect all. Okay, folks, the other large thing I'd like to do, how are we doing on time, Krista? I didn't throw my clock in front of me.
You're doing great. I do, before you switch gears, I do want
Yeah.
to, there was a question in the chat from Dalton.
Okay, I'm
Going
ready.
back to the maps, and his question is, what draws the large attraction to the cities in Asia? So Dalton, I don't know if you want to clarify that at all, if Herb needs that clarified, but I think just why are those such population magnets, those big cities? Do you know, Herb?
Well, I think that the major reason is the same reason that Lima, Peru has 1/3 of the population, because there's economic opportunity, and people are moving there mostly for jobs. Folks, this wasn't true 50 years ago. 50 years ago, India was still 75% rural. And the cities in India today, oh my gosh, there's many mega cities. And you've heard Delhi has some of the worst air in the world. Talk about Chinese cities. Wow, I think India has overtaken them. Mostly it's because they're a center of government, center of commerce, and it's mostly people that have, oh my goodness, India. The birth rate is still an average of several children, 5 or 6 per family. Maybe not everyone can make it on a farm, so a lot go to the city. Folks, it's economic, most of it. I would say there are lots of factors, but I tell you what, when I found out that Peru's got roughly 25 million people and 1/3 of them live in Lima, wow, they're going for jobs. I'm not sure everybody finds one, but that's what they're going for. Does that help?
Thanks, Herb. Appreciate you.
Thank
Thanks.
Okay, folks, we're going to look at the 5 themes of geography. If you've never heard of them, I think you will find that they're really friendly and that you can use them with any age of student. But I wanted you to see these because I would like anyone who comes to the Amazon to have this background in your head, because any place you visit in the world on a vacation or on a learning trip like this, you can find out more about that place and the connections of that place if you think about all 5 themes. I'm not sure how many of you have heard of them. They're not always in textbooks anymore, but I love the 5 themes. So we're going to do them quickly just so that you know them, and then we're going to look at the Amazon with the 5 themes real fast, and then we'll get to the Geo Inquiry. Folks, location is the first of the 5 themes. Basically, ask the question, where is it? This is the spatial nature. We're looking at maps or a particular place. There are two types, and I think you may be familiar with these. An absolute location, which would be a latitude, longitude, or an address, or if you're just telling someone, hey, I'll meet you at the corner of so-and-so and so-and-so in whatever town you're in. Folks, that's an absolute location. There's also a relative location, what you're close to. Folks, when I tell people I used to teach in Henderson, Nevada, they would sometimes stare at me like, where is that? Well, it's a suburb of Las Vegas. Well, that's a relative location. It's not far from Hoover Dam and Lake Mead. Ah, it's in southern Nevada, a relative location. Folks, I think, although we use absolute location a lot, if you're on a plane, those pilots are using two absolute locations to program their computer because they're going to fly from one set of coordinates to another. But relative location we use all the time. Okay. Folks, this is, I think they put it first, although the order doesn't really matter because it's the most spatial in nature. The second one, oh my goodness, the younger you get down into the elementary school, you really have to be careful because place to many kids seems like the same, a location and place. Well, in this case, a place is not just a spot on the map. Okay, it's not just a set of coordinates. It's the unique physical or human characteristics that make that place a place. Okay, folks, I'm just going to throw out a name. We'll use the big one in the middle, Paris. What things pop into your head when you hear Paris?
Croissants.
Croissants. You might think of the Eiffel Tower. You might think of the Louvre. You might think of Notre Dame or the Seine River, okay? Or a favorite meal that you have there, or the people that are in Paris, or the fact that they speak French. Folks, Paris is not just a location, it's a place. It has the most unique and wonderful physical, like the Seine River, or human characteristics, okay, like the Eiffel Tower. So all the places that you see here, even though some are more physical, like Machu Picchu, folks, Machu Picchu to me is one of the most amazing places in the world because even without a ruin there, the location of Machu Picchu, that physical environment, that place is amazing. If you put on top of that, okay, an Inca ruin, it's amazing. Folks, when I say Disneyland, Disney World, kids, things pop into their head. A memory of being there, a ride that they love, the weather they experienced while they were there. Folks, this is the difference. So when you're in the Amazon, you're not just in a location. Iquitos, I can give you latitude and longitude for it, but Iquitos is a place. The canopy walkway that you're going to walk on, that is a place. Third is human environment interaction. And I'll tell you, folks, this is, to me, it's in the middle for a reason, because I think this is the five theme that geographers look at mostly. How does the environment affect people? And in turn, how do humans affect the environment? Folks, there are examples with the pictures here that you can use with students that are both. You've got a nice or a not so nice hurricane in the top left. Okay, that's the physical world affecting humans. You have droughts. Okay, you have got human changes. Folks, we have a fire burning in the rainforest. You have a huge dam that's created a man-made lake. Okay, that's humans affecting the environment. It works both ways. And I think today, the stories that we need to tell, whether it's the story of Iquitos historically, why that city is where it's at, where, on the Amazon River, or the bigger story of the rainforest around it that we're looking at, or the possibility of a road going from Iquitos very far north, connecting Iquitos finally by road, because it's not connected by road, all the way up to Colombia. Folks, this is basically what all of geography eventually gets to. How we affect the environment, but how the environment affects us. Then there's movement. Maybe the easiest theme for kids. I like to tell people that 4 things move. We move, goods move, ideas move, and there's movement in nature. You can tell that I think I like the picture of the hurricane, but we have hot and cold currents in the world. That movement is very important to the places that that they go by. Folks, if you have a warm current like the Gulf Stream and you live on the coast of Norway, man, are you better off because of that warm current. Okay. If you have a cold current like the Humboldt current that goes by Peru, it's a very cold current. And the coast of Peru is incredibly dry. If you go a little further south, you're going to find the Atacama, one of the driest places in the world along the coast. That's because of a cold current. Folks, goods move. We're finding out that maybe goods aren't going to be moving here pretty soon. People move. Hey, I'm on my way to Macau and to Hong Kong. I'm going to move. Okay, there's lots of types of transportation. And of course, ideas move as well. Folks, it may have started off with, you know, a very primitive types of ways that ideas could move, but something as incredible as a printing press, they changed the world in many ways because ideas were much more, they were easier to get to. And people, anyone could have a book. Today we have undersea cables that have to span entire oceans and satellites, and ideas move incredibly fast and news moves incredibly fast. Folks, all these things affect the people and the land and everything else about it. Folks, the last one, I know you know, the geographers love to split the world up into regions, and they can be political or physical. You're seeing a whole bunch of different types of regions. Folks, regions of the U.S., every textbook likes to divide them up. Hey, this is the West or the South or the Southwest or whatever. You've got on the right of that, you have the Great Basin. Okay, to the left, you have the Amazon Basin. Folks, you have North Africa and the Sahara down below. There are cultural regions, perceptual regions. What you really just have to let kids know or fellow teachers is that regions can be big or small, but the most important thing is that they have common characteristics. Why do we study everything from the Rio Grande south to Tierra del Fuego, all of Mexico, Central America, South America? We study all those places together. We lump it into a region and we call it Latin America. Okay, there are reasons why those places have common characteristics, whether it may be history, and whether it may be language, maybe it is religion, but a region can be almost anything you want, okay, as long as you can illustrate that you're creating a region because of these physical features. Okay, the lack of rainfall, okay, or a group of people that live in this area. All right, folks, there are so many types of regions, but they're very, very useful because the world's a big place and we can chop it up into little smaller pieces and we can study the Amazon basin. Does that mean when we study the Amazon basin, we don't study anything outside the Amazon basin? Well, no, I think the Andes are pretty important to the Amazon basin. Okay, I think that winds that are bringing the dust and soil from Africa across the Atlantic, well, they're pretty important too. Okay, but if we want to see the effects that they have on an ecosystem, that's the Amazon, okay, we can look at just the countries that are in that drainage network. All right, very quickly, just for fun, I want you to think of the place you're going to. Some of you have been to this part of the world and you've been to the Educator Academy already, or you've done something else in the Amazon. Folks, the location of where we're going, Iquitos is about 3 degrees south, roughly 60 degrees west. That's a location. Okay, I can give you an address for the Jungle House, owned by Explorama Lodges. I can tell you what the address and the street is. Okay, that's an absolute location. I can show you where the Napo and the Amazon come together. I can show you the Axe Canopy Walkway. We can put a set of coordinates on that without any problem. Folks, this is an incredible place though, okay? not only the people that live here, okay, but also the biodiversity in this area is one of the most biodiverse in the world. Okay. On top of that, we have hundreds, yeah, well, at least 10 million people that live in the basin, but we have thousands of people that live in Iquitos, at least 500,000 people. And in the communities that you're going to visit, um, like the Maihuna community, just not far from Napo Lodge. Folks, they have commerce there. They have favorite foods there. They have animals there. Folks, it's not just a location, it's also a place. I believe that there's some human environment interaction going on. I guess we don't need to spend much time on this slide, but there's some good stuff, folks. There's ecotourism that's sustainably helping people in the Amazon have make a living, okay, and use the resources without depleting them. But there's also incredibly bad things going on. Okay, there's oil exploration. Okay, there's illegal logging. There's mining going on in the Amazon. There's clear cutting of the Amazon in parts of Peru and definitely in Brazil. Folks, these are all examples of human environment interaction. Movement, how are we going to get there? Well, if you're going to Iquitos, folks, you got to go by the Amazon River on a boat, or you're going to have to fly. And so we'll be flying to Iquitos. Folks, once about, 13 years ago, I traveled 3,200 miles up the Amazon from the mouth of the river all the way to Iquitos, Peru. Most of the time, I fly to Iquitos. Folks, look at the bottom left. That is a conquistador. Wow, is there a historical aspect of movement in Latin America, in Brazil, in Peru? You better believe it. We're going to get around by boat and by using our feet because, man, there aren't too many roads once, well, maybe no roads. Once we leave Iquitos, you're just not going to see them. They're non-existent in this part of the world. And lastly, folks, regions, not just the Amazon basin. I'm not sure if you know this, but Peru has 3 incredible regions. The green you see at the top left, that is all the Amazon basin, lowland rainforest. Okay, then you have the Andes, a highland region, which includes high plains, the Altiplano, okay, in places like Cusco and Machu Picchu and so many others. But you have a third region in Peru along the coast, okay, lowland, but incredibly dry because of the cold current that runs by Peru. Folks, I tell people, if you're only going to go to one country in Latin America, especially South America, go to Peru because you can visit the Nazca Lines, Machu Picchu, and Iquitos and feel like you're in 3 different countries. Okay, folks, there are regions that are political. I can give you states of Brazil, okay, or of Peru. Okay, we can look at a region of just the drainage basin down at the bottom right. Okay, that shows all the countries and all the tributaries. Over 1,100 tributaries that flow into the Amazon. We could study that as a region as well. Folks, lastly, since I know we're doing pretty well, oh yeah, we're doing good. There is a collection of resources at National Geographic, and Krista was going to make sure she could find that link for us and maybe put in the chat. I just checked to make sure all these resources are still there. Folks, if you just do a Google search for Geo Inquiry and then just put Nat Geo in that search, you're going to find this stuff. And it's a way that you can look at, have students tackle any inquiry that you'd like to do geographically. Okay? So basically is getting them to ask or develop the questions that they want to answer, collecting the data and information, doing that research, okay, visualizing it by organizing it, analyzing it, maybe making maps, maybe making charts, maybe taking photographs, okay, and then they want to create some sort of product that will help tell the story. They want to create a video. They want to create a podcast. They want to create a series of maps. They want to create a presentation that they can give to a town council. okay, because they're tackling the problem of pollution or trash in their neighborhood by their school. Okay, and lastly, of course, if you can see the bottom, is having anybody, geographers, students, having them act and do something about the problem that they're trying to tackle. Folks, I put in the short description, but you'll find this in the Geo Inquiry materials from National Geographic. But basically, they go into a lot more detail on how to take students through all 5 of these steps. This probably doesn't look unfamiliar to most of you because I know you've done inquiry of some kind with your students, whether it's scientific or whether it's social studies based, but this was developed by National Geographic really to use the geographic perspective that we've been talking about to learn more about the world, make connections, and try to solve problems. And you can't do that if you don't collect information, you don't analyze it. But the most important thing to me is those last 3 steps. You know, creating something, visual, something visual in some way, whether that's a combination of videos or maps or a written presentation, creating something that can help you make a change, can help bring a problem into the public so that people will know about it. Folks at National Geographic and all their explorers that they're now supporting all over the world, folks, they're into action. About, I don't know, almost 7, 8 years ago, National Geographic said, hey, we're done with raising awareness. We're done with having just a geography awareness week. We're done with just disseminating geographic knowledge. We have to act. And if we don't act now, we're not going to have a planet to act about. And so these days, when you see anything from National Geographic, it's about action. And so they want every kid to be an explorer, to have an explorer mindset, and to help tell stories and to take action. So that's what this is about. The last slide here, well, second to the last, I just want to give you an example of looking at Geo Inquiry. Folks, the rainforest, where we're going. Let's look at all the different segments. Well, we want to study the tropical rainforest. Well, first we have to locate them. Where are they? They seem to be pretty much equatorial. Okay. What spatial patterns do you see here? Okay. Well, the coast of Peru doesn't have any rainforest. North Africa doesn't have any rainforest. Okay. Folks, are there questions like what challenges do they face? Folks, look at that list. That is almost so daunting sometimes. I think everyone at Morpho sometimes thinks, everybody at Conopac thinks, how can we possibly do anything? We have illegal mining. We have land and water pollution. We have population issues in some areas of the rainforest, like Indonesia. Okay, we have monoculture farming and ranching that's taking over large areas, whether it's Borneo or Costa Rica. Okay, habitat destruction, climate change, extinction of species, loss of indigenous cultures. Folks, all these things are affecting the Amazon. I'm hoping that during your time there, you're going to be able to come up with a geo inquiry that you can use with your students to bring your experience home, okay, and to let them experience in some way what you experienced with the native people that we're going to work with, and of course with the ecosystem, with the animals and the plants and the biodiversity in the Amazon. Last slide is always a sunset for me. So this is sunset from the Canopy Walkway. Boy, I think I have a few of these pictures. I don't even think this one's mine, actually. I got a few pictures of the Canopy Walkway. It's a place that you're going to come to love. And we're going to end with that. But in the presentation, when you look at it in the resources at Morpho, there will be a tiny activity using the 5 themes. I call it My Place. And basically, you let students choose a place, make it a place they know really well, a place they go on vacation, their grandmother's house, their favorite town they visit, their whatever. Okay, and then have them describe that place using the 5 themes. And I have notes on the left to give students so they understand what they're talking about. Well, where's the location? Is it relative? Is it not? Okay, is it an absolute location? Okay, what's the place like? Does the environment affect people there or vice versa? Okay, how do things move in that area? How do people get there? Is there historical movement in that area? Is there a major river? Okay, what region is it part of? If you want the kids just to practice using the 5 themes, I just threw this one at the end so that you could do that. Let's see. I think we made it within time, although we don't have a lot of time for questions, but I think we'll get the end of this share. I'm going to try to end it. Oh, sorry.
Thanks,
I can
Herb.
stop. There we go.
Yeah, thank you so much. I love this idea of applying the geography lens as a organizing way to think about how to bring your story back home, and putting some of the science that we do, especially for, we're more of an inquiry. We've always led with the science part of this, and it provides an opportunity to put that into a bigger context and a more meaningful context, and hopefully a more action oriented context as well.
Yeah, any data that you collect in the Amazon, whether it's weather data or camera trap data, it doesn't matter. It can be mapped, and now I think everybody knows that.
I think providing the context of where that data came from, and the people that were involved in collecting it, and the stories that come with that, that's when this becomes far more impactful, as a teaching tool, but also just engaging your students and pulling them into that, and being able to model that in your home ecosystem. So
Absolutely. It makes it more powerful. And I tell people all the time that the power of geography is actually awesome as a way of looking at this big picture and finding those connections and telling a story. There's no other discipline that can do it as well.